The attitude of some Brexiteers, I still can't take that word seriously, really would be funny, if only it wasn't so tragic. Yesterday I found myself in a bit of a dispute about the EU and our relationship to it on social media. Yes, I know, it's not healthy and it solves nothing to argue with random strangers online who may or may not feel at all bound by what I like to think of as the importance of truth. This particular respondent, we'll call him Albert to spare his blushes, was making the point that they were destroying the British way of life. I asked him what British way of life he wasn't able to indulge in because of them, whoever they might be, and after a long pause, in which he was either struggling to find a plausible answer, or more charitably taking his ever-so-British bulldog out for a long walk on the common, he eventually reported that he couldn't have a drink on the street outside a pub that happened to be opposite a Whitechapel mosque. I like to check my facts, so I asked him the name of the pub, and he said, The Bear. OK, said I, I'll see what I can find and try to discover the relevant local bylaw he's referring to. I couldn't find the Bear. He later informed me that it was closed down, but I did find a similarly named pub nearby which clearly had no problem with people drinking outside. In fact, there was a picture on its website with tables and chairs on the pavement for customers to use. I asked if the issue was a no public drinking bylaw in the borough, which meant you couldn't drink outside of an abandoned pub but could drink on the street outside an actual working pub. I asked if this was a borough-wide restriction in Whitechapel, which just happened to include a mosque. Presumably the same rule would apply for drinking on the street outside the local Salvation Army headquarters. Instead of continuing in this vein, Albert then suggested I look up the Pride of Spitalfields. Apparently, they disliked it so much, they petrol-bombed it. I found reports that a gang of youths had indeed petrol-bombed the pub, but there was no information as to their identities, no record of their religious or ethnic background, no indication about motive, and no record of a trial or conviction. I put it to Albert that we don't know who or why, to which he replied, It's well known. Clearly it's not, though, or they'd have been convicted. Albert's response was to accuse me of playing the Marxist intelligent bollocks. Apparently the search for truth is Marxist now. Who knew? When challenged on Spitalfield, he moved on to electoral corruption, when I pointed out that the Leave campaign was itself extremely corrupt in terms of electoral law and in dishonesty before the UK public. He moved on to false passports from Romania. Eventually we got to the bottom of what was Albert's obvious, true agenda. Albert doesn't like Muslims, and that's why he voted for Brexit. Never mind the fact that European member states are largely Christian, and the majority of Muslims come from the Levant and North Africa. Brexit will somehow stop them from allegedly preventing Albert from drinking beer on the pavement outside an abandoned pub. But then came the real crunch, the real tragedy behind this story. I presented Albert with some actual facts. You do know the UK has always had the right to limit our immigration under EU rules, don't you? I explained Article 7 to him. Without even breaking his stride, Albert replied, Fake news. I gave him some references and invited him to look them up. He didn't. I explained that we've had the option to return immigrants, EU citizens or not, after 3 months if they were not in work, without adequate health insurance, or unable to support themselves. Albert then hit upon what he clearly thought was a blinder. It's too difficult to implement Article 7 because of the European Convention on Human Rights. Other countries manage it, I assured him. No, too difficult, he replied. with all the authority of a man who'd never even heard of Article 7 until a minute or two before. We went round in a few more circles for a while before both of us evidently decided it wasn't worth continuing. I don't know if Albert was as exasperated as I was, but I imagine he will have been. I suspect that he genuinely believes the nonsense people like Johnson, Farage and Gove told him before the 2016 referendum. And now, instead of wondering why they never mentioned Article 7, his main reason for voting Brexit was immigration, he was instead wondering how he can dismiss that truth because it doesn't fit with his existing views. That's the tragedy. It's not so bad that many people were taken in by the concerted efforts of right-wing exploitative ideologues who want nothing more than to create a UK workforce without defences or meaningful rights. That can be put right fairly easily in a democracy. Just give people the opportunity to vote again. The tragedy is the way that people who, on one level, clearly know that they've been duped, or they wouldn't be so keen to avoid real facts, refuse to consider the possibility they might have been conned. As Cromwell famously asked of the Episcopalian Church of Scotland in the 17th century, "I beseech thee in the bowels of Christ, think it possible that you might be wrong." Until the great British people are prepared to entertain the possibility that they, too, might be fallible from time to time, this nation will remain on a track that leads inexorably into even greater wealth inequality, increasing social unrest, and sectarian hatred. We've all met Albert, because there are many like him all across the land. They're the ones who confidently proclaim the rightness of Brexit, but whose understanding of reality, either before or the likely outcome after we leave Europe, is both limited and willfully ignorant. If this nation is to survive, we need to get all those Alberts to stop pretending to be patriotic whilst inflicting such extreme damage on their own country and its citizens. But how? I'd love to hear your comments and suggestions. I'm Stuart Sorensen, and this is Left Eye View. If you found this video interesting, please click on the little I subscribe icon that's on your screen right now. And while you're at it, please like and share this video. It'll really help me get this brand new leftist channel off the ground. Thank you very much.